Hey, everybody. Well, just give it a second here. What's going on with the old connection is unstable? Oh, this is a great way. Well, seems to be better now. So anyways, folks, this is it's an important stream at the same time. It's my first time trying it on multiple platforms. So for this particular stream, I'm live streaming on Facebook. Actually, let me just check and make sure all the streams are working right now. So let me just do that. So it's live streaming on Facebook on the Canadian Libertarian Facebook page. If you haven't that page already, then I definitely recommend you do so. Lots of stuff that I upload and post there every single day. Then, of course, there's the Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel, and I'm live streaming to Rumble today as well. So I'm just, like I say, I'm just going to check and make sure that everything is working. Okay, I do see the Facebook one. It's hey everybody. Well, yeah. So Facebook, it's working. Okay, so that's good to go. So we'll leave that one, close that one up, and I'm just going to check here on Rumble. See what's going on over here on Rumble. Let us see what is going on Rumble. And of course, in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that, checking over on YouTube. Let us see what is going on Rumble. Okay, so there's a little delay there, but YouTube seems to be working. That's a good thing. 2 out of 3 so far. Just waiting on the old Rumble to see what's going on there. Oh, I see a red light on. Aha. So over on the old Rumble. Yes. Oh, there it goes. Red light on. Aha. So over on the old Rumble. So yes, working on Rumble. We're working on YouTube and Facebook. Multi-platform streaming going on today. Ooh, moving on up. Anyways, folks, so you're probably aware. Actually, let me just see if there's anyone in the chat there so far. Like I say, got to give people time. Got to give people time. Hey, David, what's going on, my friend? Let's see. I see David from Texas. How's everything down there in Texas? Actually, what was it I was watching last night? What the? Now I'm going to forget. Me and the wife were watching a program last night, and I'm trying to think of the name of the. It was this couple that went to the world's largest gas station. Anyways, there's a franchise of them. It's like a beaver. Is it a beaver? I think it might be a beaver or something. Anyways, you might know what I'm talking about, but yeah, they got the world's largest gas station. It's like over 100 gas pumps, right? It's like unbelievably huge. Of course, everything's big in Texas, right? But geez, I wish I could remember the name of them friggin' things. But yeah, they look really impressive, really impressive. Now, I have been to the world's largest truck stop out there on Iowa 80. But this, once again, this was down in Texas. So anyways, but hey, how you doing today there, David? Glad to see you've made it to the stream. And there's Healer. Good morning, everyone, from Miracle Beach, British Columbia. Like I say, I just love that, the name of that place. I hear a tsunami hit Hawaii. Yeah, no doubt. Actually, I'm unfortunately I haven't been paying much attention to like weather events, but I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. What's going on, Michael Marini? Is it Marini? Yeah, Marini. Marini. Hey, Michael Marini. Sounds like an Italian last name, doesn't it? Italiano. How you doing today there, Michael? Thanks for joining the stream, and thanks for all you folks who have joined the stream. And if you wouldn't mind, click that like, or yeah, the like button. Or I guess on Rumble, is it the plus or minus? I believe. And on Facebook, of course, it'd be like. Anyways, yeah, just a little positive feedback would be great. Would be great. But good morning to you, Shaky Pete. Hopefully you got yourself a few coffees in you and you're not so shaky this morning. Anyways, how you doing? Glad you joined the stream as well. I joke, of course. I kid. Oh, on fire. Zero Da Vinci. Zero Da Vinci is on fire. Thank you for joining the stream as well. Aha, from the BC. So you're so what would that be? About 8 o'clock out your way, I would have guessed. Oh, yeah, that's it. Is that it? Bucky's. Yeah. Yes, right on, David. I knew you'd know what I was talking about. Bucky's. Yeah, I believe that's what it was called, right? Bucky's, right? But yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. I yearn for some days. I think in in an after or a prior life, was I a Texan? Because boy, sometimes I feel like it's a place that I would fit right in, anyways, in Texas. Maybe someday. Good morning from the Gulf Islands of BC. Nice, 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 nice. Thank you, Michael, for joining again. And Skylar, what's going on, Skylar? Thank you for joining the stream as well. I think we got pretty much everything's good. Yeah, Flying J. Oh, I love the Flying J's, man. Don't get me started on the Flying J's, David. If my wife was here right now, she'd say, yeah, don't bring up, especially the breakfast buffet. Oh, I love the breakfast. Fortunately, I have a pretty good metabolism rate and stay fairly active and physically fit, because if not, I understand poor buggers, a lot of truck drivers, right? Very overweight, very obese. Probably some of them would maybe have some difficult times with COVID, right? But yeah, I mean, but how can you help it? It's really difficult when you get some of these amazing buffets like those at the Flying J, or the Petro is another franchise. Not sure if they're still around. The Iron Skillet, they called theirs. But I mean, you could get like all you can eat breakfast buffet, and I mean with great, amazing items for like something like $6, right? It's like unbelievable, America, right? America. But yeah, I love the Flying J's, and of course, as a truck driver, long haul truck driver, I mean they're everywhere, right? Between the Flying J's, the Petros, and what's that other smaller one? Oh, the pilots, which are smaller truck stops, not nearly as big as the Flying J's and the Petros, but then there's, of course, the TAs, Truck Stops of America. I mean, great. I mean, there's just awesome truck stops in the U.S. Anyways, so let's get beyond the reminiscing about trucking in Texas, and let's get to the topic at hand. But actually, I had this article, so before I actually cover the particular article that I wanted to start this live stream over, because yeah, wow, are they ever whipping it up now? But anyways, and backpedaling. Holy, look, those goal posts, right? Damn, you could be Mario Andretti and be a hard time trying to duck in and out. The goal posts are moving so much, like you got some serious talent and skills, right, to be able to maneuver around them. But anyways, like I say, but before we get to that part, because this is going to help lead up to it, right? So let me just bring this up, bring it to the stream. So this is an article. Actually, I got to scroll up on that article because you can't see the actual headline. So this is from Fortune magazine, but you know you'll see this being reported by multiple outlets. And like I say, everything that I cover, as per usual, will be linked in the description of the live stream below. So for Fortune magazine, Pfizer is testing a hybrid COVID vaccine, mixing its original with a new formulation that shields against Omicron. What if it comes with 11 different herbs and spices? Well, no, they couldn't, because they'd be sued, right, by KFC. I'm kind of joking, obviously, in a way. Anyways, so this is being reported by Riley Griffin in Bloomberg, January 10th, 2022. Yeah, 2022. Well, better be. Because yeah, Omicron wasn't even around a year ago. Anyways, so what they're saying, and that's another thing. Actually, before I even read in this article, this is another thing that I wanted to point out. So I got to try to get all this stuff out. I mean, there's what, 3 vaccines now? 4, actually. I think there's 4 of them in Israel. I think they're messing around with like a second booster, right? So 4 of them. But you got to remember, folks, let's keep all this in mind. That all of those, and I checked just to make sure that I wasn't talking out my ass and made sure I knew what I was talking about. But I checked, and all of these vaccines so far are basically the old vaccines. So, you know, whether you're talking about Pfizer or Moderna, and particularly that's what we're going to be dealing with, because especially in Canada, that's basically the only game, right? Is Pfizer and Moderna, the mRNA vaccines. But once again, all those, whether it's your first dose, your second dose, or the booster, or even at some point in time, if there's the potential for the 4th dose, right, a second booster, they're all just they're just the original recipe, right? They're literally just the original recipe, just in higher dosages or concentration amounts, right? So it's all the same. Even the kids one is the same original one. It's just a smaller amount of it. So it really, at the end of the day, you're talking about, and especially when you're talking about mandating vaccines. I mean, first of all, there's multiple of them, so you're going to mandate multiple vaccines, and second, and probably even more importantly, is you're going to mandate vaccines that at this point in time have proven to be basically minimal in terms of their effectiveness, right? I mean, maybe a long time ago, maybe way earlier on, they made them. You could never make the case for me, but they might have had some, at least an increased semblance of urgency or science based, although it still wouldn't be based on morality or ethics. But all that crap or pretension that, well, we just got to do it to flatten the curve or save the greater good, protect the greater good. Once again, with all the information that's available to us today, and like I say, in the age of information, ignorance truly is a choice. So with all that information at our disposal, how could you even put forth a pretense that you're going to force people or mandate people to take vaccines or have fines imposed on them when at this point in time we realize that they may very well be obsolete? Because with the new variants that have come to light, in particular Omicron at this point, but once again, what's the next one going to be, right? So being forced to use antiquated vaccines that not only are shown to have dramatic drop-offs in terms of efficacy or its ability to actually stave off or keep the protection or prevent getting infected or spreading it around. Now we all get the severity. Yes, there's slight, if you have 3 or 4 doses, there's still slight protections from the severe outcomes. Yes. And maybe even somewhat moderate protection from that. But once again, that is solely dependent on you as the person, right? So yeah, 4 doses might protect the person that's really, really vulnerable, right? Or it could turn around and do the opposite or have the opposite effect. But for perfectly healthy individuals, people like myself, 1, 2, 3, once again, it's not doing anything in terms of, like, you're not protecting me, right? By forcing me to get the vaccine. Because once again, I'm not worried about my health and I won't be going here. I guarantee that I wouldn't be on the hospital. I'd rather die on my couch, to be honest with you, than go to these hospitals. Trust me on that one, because actually I might have just as good a chance. But anyways, so the excuse of overwhelming the ICUs, I guarantee the ICUs, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated, but that's the thing. They're trying to paint this as vaccinated or unvaccinated. Oh, well, how about these ones that are unvaccinated in your hospitals? Okay, is that the only identifier you're going to use? Are they unhealthy unvaccinated people? Are they really old unvaccinated people? Are they unvaccinated individuals with lots of comorbidities or morbidities or health issues? All that stuff matters, right? Anyways, before I get on too much of a tangent, I do want to make sure that everything's working on the stream. So let me just check here real quick. Get in the stream here, and I'll go back to it. But I just want to make sure everything's going smooth. I see, like I say, so the Facebook thing's working, the YouTube thing's working. Let me get over here and check out some of the comments. If you guys wouldn't mind, just let me know whichever platform you're watching from. I think Facebook, you should be able to comment, but I just would like some feedback to know how's the stream. Because like I say, I just want to make sure that the quality is decent, because I know how frustrating it can be for something. Anyways, let's get to the bottom one. It's currently 80% hospitalizations and deaths are the vaccinated. So I get you. And once again, it depends on what study, what particular time. So I get what you're saying. They're just up yours. And I would agree with you. And in a lot of areas, we're definitely seeing the vaccinated. But that's, again, even using these terms, and I'm trying to help myself think more critically about these things, right? So once again, even using vaccinated or unvaccinated, this is a terrible way to describe these things, anyways. And to be honest with you, and I've been, I would say wrong myself for even just using it. But that's the thing. We're trying to push back against these ridiculous narratives, and it's really, really hard to encompass everything. Well, that's why I like to do these live streams from time to time, but because it allows you the time to develop your thoughts and to try to articulate them, verbally, right? But unvaccinated or vaccinated, I mean, that can't be the sole identifiers, right? I mean, how ridiculous is that? That's like saying black or white. Well, what the hell? That's okay. That might tell me the color of their skin or whether they've had the vaccine or not, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot whole lot else about them, right? Are they healthy? How old are they? Do they have comorbidities, right? Do they have underlying conditions? Are they immunocompromised? All of these things have a dramatic affect and tell not only tell a tale, but would be contributing factors and play a role in determining whether a vaccine is good for you or not, or whether multiple vaccines are good for you or not. But anyway, so like I said, I just wanted to go back to this article out of Fortune. I'll just read a little bit here. So Pfizer is testing a hybrid COVID vaccine, mixing its original with a new formulation that shields against Omicron. And even this Pfizer CEO, I'm sure you folks has come out and said that. And I mean, forget about getting into the controversy of nitpicking about precisely everything he said, but basically the messaging, the takeaway from it is yes, there's waning efficacy at this point in time from those current vaccines in circulation. So that's literally why they're coming out with a new one. So that really shouldn't even be controversial, right? That's just a normal thing. Even for when you think about like the flu vaccines in the past. Every year they had to come out with a new one, right? Why? Because new strains and stuff. Or not, maybe not every year, but you know what I mean? A lot of new flu vaccines. And for the same reason. And a lot of times you end up, which is why a lot of Canadians never ended up taking flu vaccines. Now, the vulnerable, right? The highly susceptible, they should have probably, some of them, maybe most of them, who knows? But once again, why would I take a flu vaccine? Even if I get the flu, I'm going to be all right. Same with COVID. Same with COVID. Anyways, let me get down to this article. Never miss a story. Okay. Pfizer Inc. is developing a hybrid vaccine that combines its original shot with a formulation that shields against the highly transmissible Omicron variant. The drug giant's top executive said. So what are they trying to do? Shields against. This is hilarious. So once again, it's really important the language they use in these. So shield against. Well, now what would you think a shield would do, right? When you conjure up the image of a shield in your mind, you're like, okay, if I put the shield up, anything that they're sending towards me, or the virus, it's going to bounce off. In other words, what's going to prevent it from people from contracting it, from getting Omicron or COVID? Because once again, I think we were told that same kind of crap right earlier on, and which is why a lot of people naively jumped on board to get all these vaccines, because they were kind of told that, if you do it, we'll be able to not just flatten the curve, but eliminate the virus and move on and get back to normal, right? But once again, that never proved to be a reality. So reality over rhetoric is what I always say. While research continues, Pfizer will evaluate the new hybrid formulation against an Omicron-specific shot and determine which is best suited to move forward by March. So wait a minute. Pfizer will evaluate the new hybrid formulation against an Omicron-specific shot. So they're actually working on two vaccines right now, right? So one that's a hybrid and another one that is a specific Omicron or Omicron-specific shot. So keep all this stuff in mind, folks, and determine which is best suited to move forward by March. Chief Executive Officer Albert Bourla said at the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference on Monday. Pfizer will be ready in March to approach U.S. regulators for clearance of the modified vaccine and bring it to market, and has already begun production, Bourla said. Pfizer said at the end of November, shortly after the new strain was first detected in South Africa, that it was working on a standalone Omicron-specific vaccine. The New York-based drug giant and German partner BioNTech SE are also testing higher dose versions of their vaccine and evaluating different dosing schedules. Bourla said he continues to provide additional resources to the company's vaccine unit, and is also looking to deploy its messenger RNA technology in other spaces. Clearly, mRNA is a very powerful technology, and we're just scratching the surface of it, he said. Okay, so on Monday, Pfizer announced a trio of deals to build out its budding franchise of mRNA candidates to target COVID, rare diseases, and cancer. Pfizer is also making inroads in scaling and out access to its oral COVID-19 treatment, Paxlovid. In a couple of weeks, we will have it everywhere, Bourla said of U.S. access to the pill. So anyways, folks, like I say, this will be, so based on the way I'm reading and interpreting what's being said in this is they're working on a standalone one, and they're going to try this hybrid one. So once again, 1, 2, and who knows? Like, there's other companies that are obviously going to be working on. So there's going to be multiple new vaccines coming to the market in just a short amount of time. This one, potentially within just a couple extra months. So, what, pray tell, would be the point of forcing or mandating vaccines, the ones that are already in circulation, right, and have proven to have failing protection, waning efficacy in due time, and like at this particular junction, what would be the point? What would be the point? Wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Anyway, so that's just that part of it. Like I say, that was just something that I wanted to get out. But before I continue on to the big story, I wanted to get in and see some of your fine folks' comments. DARPA partnered with Moderna in 2013 to test mRNA. Where are the results? Locked up at the Pentagon. What was it? Was it one of the vaccines in 55 years, or was it 75? You just so many crazy things. Oh, the experiment continues. Yeah. Thanks for joining the stream, Daniel Alejandro. Alejandro. Okay, David, they'll never talk about that. Okay, let's see what's going on here. LST, what's going on? Hey, Ben, how have you been? I've been pretty darn good. Hopefully, you've been doing well yourself. LST, I'm not quite sure if I remember the username or not, but yeah, I hope you're doing well as well. Auntie Woke, hey, what's going on Auntie Woke? Saskatchewan first party federally. Alberta first party federally. BC, Manitoba, East Coast, Quebec already has a QB first party. This would leave the power out of the Toronto swamp. I'm not familiar with any of these first parties, to be honest with you, Auntie Woke. To be honest with you, I'm not familiar, but I will say that at this point in time or this junction, and many people who are watching this stream right now probably know what I'm going to say is I don't have a whole lot of faith, to be honest with you, in the political process as a means to change things in this country. So the problem with democracies and people need to take this into consideration is a democracy is majority or mob rule, right? And as we're seeing today, even with the limitation and restrictions that are supposed to, tightly constrained government, which is supposed to be the Bill of Rights or your charter or your constitution, all that stuff it doesn't really do much, especially when you consider the kind of people who write these things, right? These documents are left with the exemptions and exceptions so that they can basically do whatever they want, right? It's like these clauses and these, like I say, in Canada, where they can basically run completely around. It's like, here, you have all these rights. We recognize and acknowledge all these rights, these inherent and inalienable rights. But yeah, we left this little clause over here that we can override anytime we want. And we're the one that gets to determine and make the excuse or the reason or the determining factors, or even whether it's legit or not as to whether we should use these things, tools or not. So the rulers are the ones that get to interpret everything and determine whether they should be able to use them. And then, of course, we do have the judicial system, so the Supreme Court in Canada, that should push back against it. But when you see how much the courts have been captured by political activism and this rise of collective authoritarianism, I don't hold out much hope. Not in Canada, anyways, right? But anyway, let me just, like I say, look through some more of these comments here. Thanks for the shout out. That was cool to hear my comment. Oh, no problem, Auntie Woke. That's what I do. That is what I do. I read people's comments. Tell you the truth, if I had the time, I would love to read everyone's comments because some of you folks say some great stuff, and I learn even myself from reading the comments. So no problem at all. Billy Meyer is the only person on the planet who has been 100% accurate on coronavirus. His name is so highly censored, YT won't allow it in the comments. Wow. That's crazy, right? Well, I mean, I don't make any claims of being the best at this or that, but I will say I do have factual proof based on my videos and my live stream that I was one of the very few earlier on that was pushing back against this. And I mean, really early on. I mean, even people like Stefan Molyneux were kind of playing both sides of the fence, right? Trying to straddle both sides of that fence. I was one of the ones very early on that was because I let my guiding principles, determine how I should think with these things. I don't let my opinions just shift in the wind based on whatever tribe I align with. That's the beautiful thing about making or taking principled stances is You don't have to worry about them constantly shifting, right? And you don't have to look for other people or other sources to tell you how to think about things. Anyways, let me see what's going on with Bernard May. Hey, what's going on? The point is to make Pfizer more money. Yeah, well, that's definitely going to happen, right? Yeah, yeah, leave the kids alone. I'm the same way, David, as you know. I'm not a fan of just leave the kids alone, will you? For crying out loud. There's just no reason, and there's no excuse for it either, is there, right? Because the kids are doing just fine. Hey, what's going on, Ben White? Hey, I haven't seen Ben White in the live streams for a long time, actually. It's great to see you around there, Ben. Hope you're having a great day, my friend. Ray 87. That looks like a new one here. Looks good. Oh, thank you very much for the feedback there, Ray. I really appreciate it. And thank you as well, Zero Da Vinci. Appreciate the feedback there, folks. It's good to know that everything's working good because, like I say, last thing I want to do is aggravate you folks with a terrible live stream. Spain and California are starting to refer to COVID as nothing more than the flu. Leads me to think they'll be cooling this down by April. Well, no doubt. That's the thing. There's some people who it seems like they have an agenda, right? And we're not quite sure if they're quite willing to give up yet. Hey, what's going on? Reed Green, Vernon, BC. Hey, I got lots of fine folks from BC on the West Coast today. What a beautiful province you folks live in. And yeah, it would be great if there were more and more of you folks taking back your province away from these authoritarian collectivists. That would be really, really awesome. Well, that's the thing. There's so many great jurisdictions and places in this country. The only thing that's failing and falling apart at this point in time are, like I say, these authoritarian collectivists. So we've got to make it a point, folks. That's what I mean. Either you submit, either you flee, right? Either we all leave and head to jurisdictions such as Florida or Texas, which some can, not everyone can, not everyone can though, right? So at the end of the day, as much as I definitely always hold out a piece of my heart for Texas, and I definitely have an affinity for the American mindset, they're just how much they hold liberty in such high regard, or at least so many of them do. But at the same time, I am a Canadian. And you know what? I'm not a big fan of throwing in the towel or the what's the surrendering or raising the white flag. I'd rather stay and fight, to be honest with you. And for the most part, my whole life, my family, my community, there's just so much that I have that matters something to me, right? It matters a lot to me in this country. So to me, and I'm sure it's the same with you folks, is yeah, we got to fight this stuff. We got to take our country back. And like I say, the best way to do that at this point in time, at this junction, anyways, is to help educate, inform, enlighten, and lead by example, right? Where's the authoritarians, right? They like to cajole, use coercion, force, right? Rob people, taxation or fines and stuff, right? Constantly with the stick. We, as libertarians, people who believe in live, let live, you do you, I do me, right? And lead by example. That's how we do it. We lead by example. That's how you do it. And once people see that, oh, look at those libertarian types or those really small limited government conservative types or critical thinking, look at them. They're doing well. They're happy, even in the face of all the crap, right? They have really strong communities, right? They're doing fine in so many areas. And no matter how many times they were beaten down, look at them. They still rise. I mean, that inspires people. That is inspirational messaging without even really have to do anything other than just do the right thing and lead by example. And that's what we have to do. That is a big part of getting things shifted in terms of the culture in this country. Then at that point in time, once the culture, well, that even then you don't have to worry about playing the political game because once your culture, the majority, the bulk, the plurality of your culture are on board with supporting each other and putting liberty front and center, right? Then it just unfolds naturally. It's just like the market, right? Just like the invisible hand. It's not like you need any puppeteer or central planners manipulating. It's just proper incentives, right? And we libertarians have the proper morality, we have the proper ethics and the principles, right? And the fact that we constantly lead by example, like I say, we got to continue to do that and get more and more of our Canadians on board. And we're seeing that shift. We're definitely seeing that shift. I'm seeing that shift. I'm sure many of you folks are seeing that shift by seeing people who you would never see prior, right? That's the thing with libertarians. We typically or historically, we're a pretty small group, especially in Canada, but we're seeing the ranks growing and growing and growing by the day. And that's because people, right, are tired of the status quo, are tired of being lied to and soothed with a bunch of rhetoric. And then they realize that, oh, you tricked me again, right? People are looking, they're desperate to see who's out there. Somebody has to be out there trying to talk common sense, using reason, logic, and actual morals and ethics as the basis for their opinions or their stances on all these issues as it pertains to COVID. Yeah. And what they're doing is they're finding, oh, there are those people, right? And typically, they're the libertarian types, the live, let live types. And like I say, that is very addictive. And people will want to emulate that. And we're seeing that kind of thing taking place. So, anyways, thanks for you folks. And thanks for all the great comments. Missing YouTuber cringe channel. Still no jabs for me. Me neither. And I won't be. It's just a simple thing. It's not that I'm like, that's the other thing too. It's not even that I'm anti-vax. It's just that, if I was 80 something years old with a couple comorbidities, and maybe I had a special event that was really important to me, and I still wanted to hold out, like still, or I had that fight in me. I would here, give me whatever is needed to protect me, right, or whatever to help me, or I would make informed decisions, but I would be much more on board with getting a vaccine. Like I say, if I was in one of those categories where I was susceptible or had the potential of having terrible outcome, right? If I did contact the virus, but I'm not one of those people. So no, they can't fear me, use the fear narrative to convince me to do it. They're not going to ever force me to, even if I have to pay a fine, whatever. Not that I would agree that I should have to pay a fine. I would fight that every step of the way. Oh, would I ever fight that every step of the way? 100%. But even like worst case scenario, I would just pay the fine, right? If it meant pay the fine, right? Or go to jail or something, like I'd pay the fine. But you're never going to get me to, you're never going to coerce me to do what you want. That's a simple thing for me. But yeah, good for you. Libertarian has some great ideas. Listen, there's amazingly great ideas. To me, I'm just so profoundly, continually to this day, 10 years later, actually more than 10 years later, of learning all these things about not just libertarians alive today, but the libertarians of the past. And like, if you think about it, even the founding fathers were libertarians of the US, right? Now, they were minarchist libertarians, so still left a little bit of holdout for some small, limited role in government. But I mean, just listen to the way that they talked and how that Constitution was written, and the Federalist Papers and all the rhetoric or all the things that were talked about and discussed, and how that was set up, how the country was set up. These were libertarians, no doubt about it. Well, of course, back then they probably would have been considered classical liberals, right? But libertarians for sure. Well, especially those from the English side of things, right? Now, if you were from Austria, Germany, or some of those places, maybe you were considered libertarian. Who would know? But like I say, at the very least, we definitely know that libertarians, I mean, freedom, liberty, I mean, slavery, right? People who were against slavery would have been the same people who take the same kind of principle stance as a libertarian would today. It's basically people who are willing to do the right thing morally and ethically and use those amazing principles to guide our decisions at every point and along the way. That is so profoundly important, folks. That's why the formulation keeps working out. The reason why Elon Musk and his crew can send these, spaceships and these satellites and have them so strategically placed is because they rely on that underlying formula of mathematics, right? Of genuine, objective, universally consistent mathematics. With that, look at what they can do with that little bit. Now, if you look at it, it's just numbers and stuff on paper or on a screen, but look at how much can come from that, right? It's the same with the universally consistent morals and ethics and principles of libertarianism. Once you extrapolate that and use that for every aspect of your social, economic, or personal lives, it's amazing how well and adaptive that can be for us. Now, Christianity, I like to use that as well. Christianity, because there's some great moral teachings within the Bible. But once again, you don't necessarily need Christianity to understand don't hit, don't steal, right? Don't preemptively hit and steal from people, right? And take their things. It's universally consistent. Stefan Molyneux has his own form of it called UPB, Universal Preferable Behavior. Ayn Rand, her form of it was objective philosophy. So it's still, and there's still going to be multiple people who will build and expand upon it, upon all that at some point in time going forward. No doubt about that in my mind. These are truly the leaders, the innovators, the thinkers, right, of our time. In reality, we are going through, and I've coined this phrase, Enlightenment Era 2.0. We are currently going through that now. These are the early stages, right? But like I say, if the right people with the right ideas, with the right mindset, right, with the right morals, ethics, and principles, have more sway over how things unfold, right? Not coercive force, just sway, just influence, then like I say, the sky is literally the limits. I mean, we already have all the technology. We already have so many things readily available and at our disposal. The only thing that's severely lacking is, like I say, universally consistent morals and ethics and our ability to deal with each other socially and economically without this giant 800-pound gorilla, which represents a monopoly of the on force, which is the state constantly interjecting itself in every area and aspect of our life. Anyways, I know I tend to go on. Yes, yes, they most certainly do, Hunty. Well, they do matter a tremendous a lot. Anyways, well, let me see what one more here. Shaky Pete, yes, you were one of the first to report like Dan Dix. I've been telling people since the start of all of this, no mask, no jab. Now I'm a racist. Time to take the garbage out. I hear you. And thanks there's Sneaky Pete for the acknowledgement. And like I say, I just try. I just try to be consistent, right? It's really important. It's important for me. It's important for my sons. I have two amazing sons because I tried to be as consistent as possible. Yes, I faltered and I failed and I've made mistakes. Some of them I'm not real proud of, right? But the more you pick yourself off, dust yourself off, and try to strive to do the right thing, the more influence that has and the positivity it has on your life and on others. And like I say, not just me and my immediate family and my kids and my wife. I'm talking and others in my immediate family, but I'm talking in my community as well, right? All these things really, really matter. And I'm glad that you folks are helping us to convince and sway people in the proper manner through voluntary means, through exchange and dialogue to help them get on board with just accepting the fact that we're never going to get to the point where everybody gets to force or impose their ideas on each other. And since that can never be the case, then just accept the fact that you do you, I do me, and let's just kind of leave each other alone, right? And when we do deal with conflicts or situations, just trust the fact that these things can be dealt with, right? Without the state, as if the state is the only way that you can cure conflicts or problems. I mean, what a just a terrible pretense that would be. But anyways, so I already am refusing the poison at all costs. I trust my immune system and instincts, gut feelings. I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same way as you are, David 19. And yeah, definitely trust yourself. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I never tell anybody what to do. But yeah, your instincts are really important. I mean, human beings, we made it out of the swamp and they're no longer just hunter and gatherers because we had pretty good instincts, or at least those of us or our ancestors that survived and lived to procreate, right? So yeah, we're pretty good at it. We have pretty good instincts. Now, do they fail us from time? Yes, nothing is perfect, but yes, trusting your instincts, right, is not a bad thing. Now, you would have some hack in the media would say, "Oh, well, they just don't believe in science." Not true, not true at all. But that's the kind of narrative that they set it up. That's the kind of divisive narrative that they constantly use, which is quite disgusting. Anyways, I'm just what's going on here? Let's see. Let me close that out so I don't have too much. Yeah, I'm going to move on now to folks the actual article in hand. Because as much as I really, really enjoy chatting with you folks, I do got to get to this topic. So here it is, Kenny. So I'm not sure if you folks seen it. I would imagine most of you have at this point in time. It just came out, was it this morning? I believe. Let me just double check here. Okay, and I'm going to cover this whole article. It's pretty long, but there's just so many stuff that we've got to cover, reference, and offer a counter narrative or opinion to, right? Or perspective. And now, the first thing I want to point out is, as you can see, this is a second opinion right here. Health, second opinion. Now, typically, and, uh, and most of you folks who are aware of CBC and their platform is typically when you see a piece, an article that's considered a second opinion, it's usually because it's a submitted opinion piece, usually by a not very regular contributor or even just someone that is not part of the organization at all, but submitted it to the CBC, and the CBC and their editors and all the people who get to make the decisions said, yeah, this is worthwhile running, and they run it on the platform. So typically, definitely not, you know, CBC journalists. CBC journalists are the ones that typically not the ones who do second opinions. Like I say, second opinion are supposed to be, from what I gather, and historically from what I've noticed, are submitted opinion pieces. But as we're seeing here, and like I say, so let me just deal with the headline. CBC News, Health, second opinion, Canadian COVID-19 vaccine study seized on by anti-vaxxers, highlighting dangers of early research in pandemic. Study found boosters only 37% effective against Omicron, but data being revised. Oh, don't worry, they're going to revise that data. Sure, right now it's their study that they put out, right? This is like the insane part. This study was a Canada study. These people put the study out, they released it, but they didn't fact check it first, right? It's so nobody sat down and proofread it and made sure that it's just also freaking crazy. But look at this. Here's the other part. Adam Miller is who is the contributor who posted this article on January 15th. So, yeah, that's this morning at 2022 at 4 a.m. this morning. And if we scroll down to Adam Miller, I'm sure you folks are probably familiar already, but look, Adam Miller is a senior writer at CBC. Miller is a senior health writer with CBC News. He's covered health, politics, and breaking news extensively in Canada for over a decade, in addition to several years reporting on news and current affairs throughout Asia. So this is a guy that's literally a CBC establishment figure. And yet they're submitting this, or they're putting this out as if it's some submitted opinion piece. The guy has obvious biases, right? I mean, he's part of the CBC organization, and we know the typical people who comprised, and with that, what was it, her name, Tara Henley, that CBC producer that just came out and whistleblowed about just how much woke culture dominates the culture in that organization and how it's all political bias, right? I mean, so we know the inside information now. We know what's going on in the CBC. Even those of us who've suspected it for years and years and years now, it's so good to see an insider come out and verify and validate what we've known all along, right? But here we are, a CBC insider, putting a second opinion article in here, which is, and like I say, just wait till you, of course, you would have to find something like that, because I don't know, you'd have to have a really difficult time to find someone who's not part of the CBC who would be willing to put their name to rhetoric such as this, right? Because that's the thing. They would have to be willing to put their name to this. Anyway, so let me scroll down here. A Canadian study that vastly underestimated the protection COVID-19 vaccines provide against the Omicron variant is being revised, but not before it spread widely on social media by anti-vaxxers, academics, and even the creators of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. So just that one little short paragraph, a lot to cover, right? So first of all, this is a Canadian study done in this country, right? Anyways, but this study is now being revised. Well, what the hell did they review? My first thing would be, why did you release the study in the first place if it's only to be revised? What? To get people all confused and confounded furthermore than they already are? Because to me, that's seems like a really, really bad thing to do at this particular junction, right? But then if you look here, so they're revising it. So like I say, why release it, right? If the study is not I don't like I say, I don't even know how to think about this. I'm trying to figure out how to even think about this. If if the study wasn't properly concluded, then why release it? If it was, if it's like, oh, well, we're just going to release it, even though we still have more data to gather here, but we're going to release it anyways. Well, will that data that you have to gather further, that further data, will it affect the outcome of the study? Oh yeah, big time. Matter of fact, it could completely flip flop it and turn it upside down on its head. Well, don't you think you should wait to get all that data before you release it? Don't you think that would have been wise and prudent? Well, apparently not. Like I say, whew. Anyways, but not before it spread widely on social media by anti-vaxxers, academics. Oh, what are they insulting? Oh, look, now they're throwing anti-vaxxers, academics, and even the creators of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine, which would mean they must be people who know something about vaccines. I would assume if they created the Russian vaccine, it must be people that at least have some idea or some clue regarding vaccines, right? But don't you just love this now? Like, look at how strange, what strange bedfellows we seem to find ourselves with these days. It's like anti-vaxxer. Well, first of all, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but that's a label I'm sure that they would place on me, right? Based on the fact that I think critically about these issues. But so anti-vaxxers, academics, so their peers, weird, and once again, scientists, because really that's what a Russian Sputnik vaccine creator would be. You'd have to be a scientist, right? You don't have plumbers doing that, right? They're scientists, right? Correct. So anti-vaxxers, academics, and real scientists. We're all through. Hey, seems like we might be in good company here. I don't know. The Ontario preprint study, and like I say, all this stuff, anything highlighted in blue, and yeah, I've got that all pulled up, and like I say, I'll make sure to link it all, even if separate links. Why not? Just to make it that much easier for you folks. The Ontario preprint study, which has not yet been peer reviewed, suggested, well, it is being now. Looks like these folks looked at it, but anyways, suggested that any 3 doses of mRNA COVID-19 vaccines were just 37% effective against Omicron infection, while 2 doses actually showed negative protection. Now, this is something that me and my wife were talking about it last night there. And once again, I'm not an epidemiologist and I'm not one of these people. So I do have to stay in my lane in some way and say that I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone can help me, or I'll learn this. I'm a learner. I do learn things. So maybe I'll learn this in due time and have a better reflection with this. But negative protection. Okay. So there's positive protection, which means even if you only have a 1% protection, that would be on the positive side of things, right? So 1% protection still be positive. 0% protection, that would be considered to me, right? I believe I'm thinking probably here, critically, right? So 0 protection would be neutral. So there's no protection, none. If it's 0, right? Makes sense to me. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking properly about this stuff, right? It's pretty low bar stuff to try to figure out. 0 is neutral, right? 1 to 100, that would be positive. Some much more positive than the other, but you're still in the positive. But how do you get into negative protection territory? How do you like there's minus 10? Wait a minute. Are you saying that actually that the 2 doses actually cause harm or cause COVID? Once again, I'm confused. I'm just a layman here. Could you please elaborate and expand on what that means to have negative protection? Inquiring minds want to know, but it seems a little odd, right? I mean, let's just get to this part. That any 3 of the doses, any 3 of the mRNA, so Moderna or Pfizer, like there's only 2 as far as I know, unless they're including the Sputnik. And is it an mRNA? I don't know, but I know in Canada the only 2 mRNA that I'm aware of are the Moderna and the Pfizer, right? So any 3 doses. So I guess if you had 2 Moderna, 1 Pfizer, 2 Pfizer, 1 Moderna, a Pfizer, a Moderna, and a Pfizer, well, I guess that would still be the same. But I guess no matter how you mix and match those mRNA vaccines, that you get just 37% effectiveness against Omicron. Now, is that immediately, right away, or is that what it goes down to and wanes after time, because that would matter too, right? Anyways, seems quite low. The preprint has been shared on Twitter more than 15,000 times, and the 2 weeks since it's been published, according to Altmetric, a company that tracks where published research is posted online. That's in the top 5% of all research it's ever tracked. Anyways, I'm just checking on the stream here before I continue on here, folks. I'm going to open up and make sure that everything is looking good. Once again, I just hopefully I'll get to the point where the streams are so seamless most of the time that I don't have to keep doing this. But I know how frustrating it would be for you folks if it was hopefully I'll get to the point where the streams are so seamless. Okay, it still seems to be working. So okay, so we're still good. So we're still good. Back to the article. Okay. So yeah, so it's getting lots of traction, lots of reach. The group behind Sputnik 5 shared the results to its 1 million Twitter followers earlier this month, saying the study showed negative efficacy of 2 mRNA vaccine doses and quickly waning efficacy of a booster. The group did not respond to questions from CBC News. Well, it looks like they're just basically repeating what was said in the study. Dr. Vinay Prasad, an associate professor of epidemiology at the University of California, San Francisco, also shared it on Twitter, asking why the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and Center for Disease Control, CDC, would advise a booster for Omicron at all. Yeah, good question, right? But the paradoxical findings were later found to have been influenced by behavioral and methodological issues, such as the timing of the observational study, the way in which vaccine passports altered individual risk, and changes in access to COVID-19 testing. Okay. The results are currently being updated with additional data that showed completely different results, said Dr. Jeff Kwong, the study's lead author and an epidemiologist and senior scientist at the Institute for Clinical Evaluation Sciences, ICES, in Toronto. The results are currently being updated with additional. Anyways, let me read a little bit further on here. We're in the process of adding 2 more weeks of data, and it looks like there's no more negative effect. Sorry. And it looks like there's no more negative VE, vaccine effectiveness. Our results are now more in line with the data from the UK, where it's lower for sure compared to Delta, but never getting to negative, he told CBC News. So once again, this is kind of like those Reuters or AP fact checkers, where it's like you're fact checking, and when I read the fact checks, which I always do meticulously, it's like, wait a minute, you found one tiny, like just the most minor detail, and you act as if someone was just completely off base, right? It's like, actually, you're basically saying the same thing and pretending that you fact check. Matter of fact, a lot of the times they say partly false. What does that mean? It's like, no, actually, no, they're absolutely right. It's just that they said it in a way that I wouldn't say it. Really, that's what a fact checker is these days. Is yeah, they're pretty much right, but I just don't like the way they say it. I just don't like the way they present their information. That's what a fact checker is these days, because I watch them, I see them all the time, I pay attention to them, and they don't rarely, I shouldn't say never, but they rarely ever actually outright debunk, what people like myself or others say, right? Or people who challenge the narrative, right? Say. They never do that. Rarely do they do that. Like I say, they just basically say, oh, I would have said it this way. That's what they're doing. It's like, oh, I would have said it this way instead. Well, of course you would, because you have a particular bias or a bent, right? You offer your opinion. Let me offer my opinion. And why don't we treat the Canadian people like actually adults they are and let them form their own opinion? But see, that's the thing. I'd be willing to do that. Whereas my opponents would be like, no. First of all, the only way this could properly work is if my opponent could duct tape my mouth and make sure that the person, right, the observer, right, only hears their perspective, and not just once, but like for 10,000 times over, and they're not allowed to. That'd be the only way. And even then, that's the thing. That is the craziest thing about this, actually. Even now with the media basically weeding out people like myself so that our voice is basically non-existent, right? But yet they're still occupying all the space, right? squeezing out all the competition, all those who had challenged the narrative for the most part. And even with them, the only one that have the ability to capture their audience, right? Their audience is still like, yeah, but I don't trust you people. You say a lot of stuff that don't make much sense, right? Well, yeah. Like I say, that's the beautiful thing about telling the truth. You don't have to be constantly like, man, it must be a lot of work, a lot of mental gymnastics to try to remember all the damn lies, right? That's why I don't get into that nonsense. I can't even imagine what it must be like to try to remember all the lies. And I would just feel absolutely miserable and disgusted with myself if I could actually see people be able to point out how many times I lied or contradicted myself. Oh, that would drive me nuts. Obviously not. That doesn't happen for most of those in the established media these days. Um, so don't worry, they're going to add 2 more weeks of data. But even that's the thing. Even by revising and adding these two more weeks of data, which why did they release the study? Once again, inquiring minds want to know. I'd like to be there and ask them, why did you release the study if you needed just 2 more weeks of data? Right? Why didn't you wait the 2 weeks? Get the data. At least you would have possibly had your narrative reinforced, right? But no, but anyways, but even if they had the 2 weeks of data, apparently the best they can get out of it or take away from that is the fact that it doesn't actually go into negative effectiveness, which once again, does that mean causation? Causing harm? I don't know, once again. But it doesn't actually go negative. Doesn't say anything about it being positive or being great, right? Or really good at preventing an infection and all that. No, it's just saying at least it doesn't say negative. Whew. Wow. Low bar or what, right? Like I say, desperation is setting in, folks. I mean, yeah, come on. I can smell it. Can you? We're in the process. Okay. And and then hire VE with the boost. So I think that's good news. And we're just in the process of running those analysis, and we hope to have an updated version, version 2, by sometime next week. And hopefully this one lines up with our narrative, because we don't want to have to do this again. It's okay. A recent report from the Imperial College London COVID-19 response team found that listen to this, folks, this is another good one. It's another good one. Like I say, you know how many people would just read the headline and maybe a couple sentences at the top and just miss this kind of gold? I never miss this kind of gold because I know this kind of gold is always contained within these articles, right? Here we go. A recent report from the Imperial College London COVID-19 response team found that while Omicron largely evades immunity from prior infection and 2 doses provide just 0 to 20% protection, 3 doses increases that to between 55 and 80%. So, I mean, I'm going to repeat that one more time, folks. And like I say, get this information to the people who really need to hear it. And like I say, do it in a subtle, non-confrontational manner. If you can, like I say, it's really important, especially if it's someone you care about, right? Someone in your family, someone in your community. Like, we really got to stop, I know I've even myself in the past have gotten pulled into the divisiveness. They ramp up. That's the thing. They're constantly ramping and stirring up the anger and division. Sometimes we get captured in. I get it, but always step back away from it. Take a few deep breaths and say, but is it helping me? Is it helping society? Is it helping anything? And if it's not, then maybe not do it. That's not me telling you what to do. I'm just actually speaking out loud to what I tell myself, right? Yeah, we got to help get this information out there. I know myself, it's definitely helping for at least three people that are not, well, one's close to my immediate family and 2 are a little bit, not immediately, but just extended, right? So there's 3 people in my life that just giving them proper information, right? Without even trying to tell them, oh, you gotta look at this. Just, hey, well, what about this? Right. Just offering stuff up like this and giving them the opportunity, right, to see it. And once again, they're like, I mean, come on, if they're thinking people, and I would imagine the kind of people you would want to associate with, at least think somewhat critically, right? If not, maybe you need to find new friends or whatever. But anyways, but like I say, I think most people, if you present with this stuff, they'd be really shocked. They'd be like, really? Really? Anyway, so like I say, let me just read it one more time. A recent report from the Imperial College London COVID-19 response team found that while Omicron largely evaded immunity from prior infections and 2 doses provide just 0 to 20% protection, Three doses increase that to between 55 and 80. Now, of course, when you're talking about that increase from the third dose, right? 80%, it would obviously completely depend on how far out, how susceptible the person might be, their natural immune system, right? Just so many variables, their age, comorbidities. I mean, just there's so many variables. But if you look even down the bottom end of it, 55 is just barely over 50% efficacy, just barely over half, right? So, I mean, come on, folks, come on. And I mean, and that's another thing. Let's talk about these vaccine mandates now that we're at this point. So even after two doses, so could you imagine a judge saying, yes, we're going to allow mandatory vaccines to take place in Canada or in a provincial jurisdiction, right? Can you imagine that? Well, if you had just this information, just these studies alone to bring to the attention of the judge, how could a judge say, oh, yeah, you should be forced to either take a vaccine or be fined or have some other punitive measures lobbed at you for not taking the vaccine? How could a judge, right, with any principles, with any morality, right, with any ethics at all, how could any judge ever say, yes, I'm going to mandate these things or I'm going to impose a fine on you, the whole population, for not taking vaccines that you need two of them to just get a 0 to 20% protection from? You actually would need three. And even then it could be 55, as low as 55 or potentially as high as 80. I mean, come on. That alone should be enough right there for a lawyer, anyone who's worth their salt in the legal field, to take this kind of information. And like I say, this information is readily available. It's the age of information, folks. To take this information, like I say, build a case against mandatory vaccination. Like I say, it's a done deal. It's locked up. It's an airtight case. There is no, first of all, there's no precedent. Oh, that's another thing too. Okay, actually, I don't want to take this off, but I'm just going to let you know that I'm going to read, because that's another thing when people talk about vaccine mandates in Canada. There's no such thing as vaccine mandates in Canada as they're being presented today by the control freaks and their media mouthpiece counterparts in the media. Every vaccine mandate that has been implemented in Canada, all the way, like from the inception of this country till now, have left exceptions and exemptions to them. So just so you know, and I'm going to read this, and this, like I say, this is from canvax.ca. So I'm going to read this to you folks. Like I say, share this information as well for people who say, oh no, they're going to be able to mandate vaccines. Oh yeah? Well, listen to this. Here's the historical context and precedent that a judge would have to acknowledge and weigh their decision based upon. As might be expected in Canada, vaccination policies are as diverse as the Geogra high immunization rates by educating their populations about the benefits of vaccines. Just 3 have legislated vaccination policies applying strictly to children about to enroll in school. Ontario and New Brunswick require immunization for diphtheria, tetanus, polio, measles, mumps, and rubella immunization, while Manitoba requires a measles vaccination. So this is talking about mandatory vaccinations. This one in particular is for children to enroll in school. But like I say, you can find this information as it pertains to adults as well. So in each case, though, the legislation includes an exemption clause. Essentially, each of the 3 provinces allows parents to request that their child be exempted from the vaccination requirements on medical or religious grounds, or simply out of conscience. In such instances, in the event of a disease outbreak, unvaccinated children can be excluded from entering a school. So other than preventing you from entering the school, there is no precedent for mandatory vaccines. And we all know this. I mean, come on. I mean, some people might have forgot it because it's been a long time. But come on, in this country, there's no such thing as mandatory vaccines, or you get a fine or might potentially go to jail or be treated like a second-class citizen. There has always been exemptions, and not just for religious. Once again, for medical or religious or simply out of conscious. So conscious just for yeah, I just don't believe it. I just don't want to take this vaccine. There is no precedent to mandate. So there's proof right there, like I say. And that's the kind of legal precedent that I mean, let the media hacks ramble on with their rhetoric, their fear tactics, their scaremongering, right? But once again, just share this stuff with people. So they're like, because people are no doubt very anxious. I know people, like I say, that I know personally are very anxious about this. One in particular, trying to be a teacher and not wanting to have to deal with this stuff, right? Um, and like I say, it's a terrible thing. Anyways, let me get back to the article. Oh yeah. Okay, where are we at here? Okay, that means the updated preprint could end up showing that protection against Omicron infection is more than twice as high as initially reported. That means the updated preprint could end up showing that protection against Omicron infection is more than twice as high as initially reported. So once again, if it's twice as high, which still doesn't sound, twice of what, like, if you go from 0 to 20, or what was the other, basically negative, or what was it at the very top? Twice as high, yeah, twice as high. Where was that? Twice as high, so 37%. So that would still be what? 74%, 74%, right? Still definitely nothing like they were touting early on with the 95 plus percent, right? And once again, that's them tweaking the numbers to suit a narrative. Because why would you release that? Where was that? Okay, here we go. Why would you show this? Like, why would you release this? Like I say, when you're going to go around and completely rewrite it entirely. As of Friday, the preprint study remained unchanged. Oh, wait, now here we go. As of Friday, the preprint study remained unchanged on the MedVit website where it was posted. So apparently, so far, because they're updating the data regularly, right? So far, it's not changing. CBC cited the study in an analysis story last week, but has since removed reference to it until the data is updated. So, like I say, oh man, they're just trying to, like I say, just trying to keep that narrative going, right? The study was also highlighted by the federal government's COVID-19 Immunity Task Force earlier this week before the discrepancies in the data were discovered. We've touched base with Dr. Kwong, and indeed he informed us of new data as of Monday night, a spokesperson said in response to CBC News raising concerns about the study's accuracy. As the data from this week does change things, we've pulled the preprint from our magazine that's being sent out today. Dr. Danuta Skoronsky, a vaccine effectiveness expert and epidemiology lead at the BC Center for Disease Control, who developed the vaccine study design used in the preprint, posted a commentary urging extreme caution with the results last week. If you have a negative estimate, you want to start looking at, okay, well, which subgroup is driving that and why, she told CBC News. So it doesn't even seem like this person is suggesting that there is no such thing, or it's impossible to have a negative estimate, but you got to start looking at subgroups. Who's driving that? Once again, is it the asymptomatic? Is it the symptomatic? Is it people who were screened for work? Is it people who had a rapid antigen test? Which group is it that's driving that paradoxical finding? Skoronsky said that until those questions have been resolved, all bets are off on the interpretation of the results, and the validity of the study has to be questioned. In the real world, we cannot control the behavior of people, and so these studies are susceptible to lack of comparability between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, she said. And that vaccine passports dramatically change the risk of exposure in Ontario. So once again, they're literally saying that this study, which all the other studies were done in the real world, right, and have to deal with all the other, possible implications that they're putting forth here, right? So are you suggesting that no studies, we shouldn't trust any study? Or is it just this particular study because it goes against the narrative. Hmm. Weird, because I'm not seeing anyone out there saying that they should remove or retract all those studies in the past that have been proven by, people who don't parrot the establishment narrative, who have pointed out the discrepancies, hypocrisies, and conflicts within them, contained within them. I don't hear any large, widespread rumblings or musings about getting rid of them or eliminating those studies. So why? Why now? Why this study? Right? Inquiring minds want to know. There are good reasons to believe that the very slim fraction of people who remain unvaccinated, that group, are quite different now from vaccinated individuals. Who would know what that even means, right? Uh, the study highlights the study highlights the speed in which early study results that have not undergone peer review can spread online in the pandemic, and the way in which inaccurate findings can be weaponized to find an agenda before they can be corrected. Really though, as a parent that raised two sons, right? These people released the study as it is in its current form and inception, right? Now, if I had the stove on, had a small child, 4 or 5 years old, that was playing with a dinky car or something on the floor in the kitchen, and I had a really hot element on frying something on the stove, and then I decided to go into another room and sit and, I don't know, shoot the breeze on the phone, and then I hear my kid scream that he had grabbed the stove and burnt himself. Now, first I would say, "Oh, you shouldn't touch that stove, son. That's bad," right? Although I should have been preemptive and wise enough beforehand to tell them that's a bad idea, right? That would be something that a prudent, wise, good parent would do, anyways. But I mean, if that incident did happen, I couldn't help but reflect on the fact that, well, Bennett, you were probably a little bit irresponsible for leaving a small child in the kitchen with a hot element on, with a frying pan on there, and without any supervision whatsoever. Because kids like to explore and are curious individuals, right? So couldn't help but think, I'm to blame here, or mostly to blame, at least. There's definitely some blame that I have to place on myself. But here, no self reflection whatsoever. These people put out that study. If that study was supposedly going to create so much controversy based on what was contained within it, then why release the study until it's properly done or until it's been revised, right? So come on. Sounds like a whole lot of political rhetoric and damage control, right? That's what it sounds to me. What do you folks think? And yeah, I want to hear what you're saying in the chat before I continue on this article. Because yeah, interesting or what, right? I mean, come on. The narrative, it's falling apart. Like I say, can you smell that desperation? Hey, Beef Supreme. Nice. Nice username, Beef Supreme. What's going on? Thanks for joining the stream. Jess says it's the word vades that made. Oh, actually, you guys are probably talking amongst each other. Let me see what's going on here. What Hitler did in the 40s is what Justin Castro is doing today. Well, that's the thing. They're leading up to that, right? So at this particular time, right? They're not coming door to door or anything like that yet, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say the 40s per se, but the 30s, yeah, the 30s. So I agree with you, Beast Supreme, but I would say, or was it Beast? Oh, sorry, not Beast Supreme. Sorry, Pump Master. I had the wrong name. Sorry, my bad. So yeah, so Pump Master, nice name. But yeah, so it wasn't the 40s. So getting set up, right? Pounding out the rhetoric, creating the division, all that stuff, that would have been done during the 30s, right? Before the actual war, before the invasion and all that stuff. So I would say 30s. Hey, Gato, what's going on, my friend? This article is about censoring the internet. it's definitely about censoring. Well, no, it could actually work out to be something along that way. Yeah. Or, well, mass formation psychosis, and that is, I forget that the guy that Dr. Robert Malone, the guy he cited who did come up or coin that phrase. But once again, if you want to avoid the ridiculousness or the pushback against using, mass psychosis, which to me, it's like, it's fine. Use it whenever you want. I don't care. But I personally, there is an actual acknowledge psychological condition called mass hysteria, which basically the same thing, right? So I use mass hysteria so that they don't have so they don't have the ability to push back and say, "Oh, there's no such thing." Oh yeah, yeah, there is. So that's the thing. Got to be smarter than these people who are trying to parrot the narrative, which it really shouldn't really shouldn't take much. Omicron is a vaccinated variant. Yeah, it sounds like it to me. Now, listen, like I say, that actually makes sense to me. That's what I've been kind of speculating and thinking about inside. Once again, just thinking out loud here, folks. Just thinking out loud, and kind of along the lines of what Dave's thinking. I'm thinking, just like with the flu vaccines, yeah, all these vaccines going around. Of course, it's going to cause the virus to mutate. The mutate or the virus wants to live. It wants to thrive and survive. So, yeah, all these vaccines, I think, just like even natural immunity, right? Once there's herd immunity, the or virus, even natural herd immunity, a virus would try to um, um, mutate in some way, right? Because, like I say, it wants to survive, but maybe not quite so readily or so profusely or so quickly, right? I think the vaccines, and like I think David's onto something here. I believe that could very well be the case. Is yeah, all these vaccines are really it's creating this rampant rise in all these variants, or at least is contributing to it. I would suggest, and I think David thinks so too. Obviously, makes sense to me, right? Yes. Oh, thanks for pointing that out, C-Mac, and thanks for joining the stream too. Yeah, Mateus Desmond. Yeah, Mateus Desmond. That's right. Yes, mass psychosis. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. See, that's the thing. That's why I love about having you folks in the stream. Like so good at catching on to this stuff. Well, say wiser than the average bear, you folks are. I think people should look up an audiobook called How to Live Free in an Unfree World. That sounds good. People need to learn how to separate themselves from the bullshit and to find happiness. 100% with you there, Gato. That's something. And, I've kind of alluded to that for a while now. It just didn't quite articulate or get those thoughts out as well as maybe some people would have. But yeah, that's kind of along the lines of what I've been saying for a while is, we kind of got to just build our own communities, build our own, like we just gotta, like I say, vacate the state in as many ways possible. And like I say, building up our own communities so that, like I say, leading by example. That ultimately at the end of the day, when I say leading by example, that it does encompass doing all of that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Gato. And like I say, thanks for that. And thanks for mentioning that audiobook once again, How to Live Free in an Unfree World. That's a great recommendation. What's Gates saying? Omicron will make COVID endemic like regular flu, and we just need flu shots. Plan all along, flu shots, a vaccine passport. Well, like I say, whether it's plan all along or all not, like I say, even like I say, the narrative is definitely falling apart. The narrative, I mean, you can just see it. You can just feel it. It's undeniable that at this point that the narrative is falling apart. And desperation, like I said, like I called this stream, desperation is definitely sinking in. Anyways, like I say, I'm just going to scroll back or going to go back into reading the article here. Yeah, when I'm reading through the comments, I should actually bring the article off and put me just stand alone on the screen, right? And I leave it in the full screen like that in the hopes that you folks can read it yourself. But if you can't, I could even just do it like this. Or well, actually, that makes it big enough that you folks might be able to read it. Or there's this way where I can put myself a little bigger and then just keep it on the page. But I don't know how you folks would prefer it or not. I do see that the sun has gone under. It's gotten darker in this room. That's for sure. Anyways, so that's all good. That's all good. Oh, so I'll just leave it like this for a little ways or for a little while, and then because, like I say, not like you can always read the whole thing afterwards, make sure that I'm saying everything that properly and covering it the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so the study highlights the speed in which early have not undergone peer review can spread online. Oh, the study highlights the speed in which early study results that have not undergone peer review can spread online in the pandemic and the way in which inaccurate findings can be weaponized to fit an agenda before they can be corrected. Anyways, I'm not going to beat that horse about the fact that they released the study, right? But anyways, many who shared the study on Twitter used anti-vaccination rhetoric to allege boosters didn't work against COVID-19, while others posited the vaccine should not have been approved for emergency use by the FDA in the first place because they did not meet its initial 50% efficacy threshold. So, like I say, whatever. Anyways, like I say, it's just people offering different perspective and opinion, but it's like, there's only some people's opinions that are allowed. Now, once again, some are going to be proven to be wrong, incorrect, all that stuff. But once again, the fact these people are willing to stifle or stymie or quash any dissent or any alternative perspectives. I mean, I don't have to. That's the thing that's so crazy. I don't ever have to look to silence other people. I mean, unless you're trolling, only people like, and I have banned people from my page and deleted comments. But only not if someone's trying to offer different perspectives or opinion. But no, if you're calling me name or insulting other people or just trolling my page, totally different. But if you have, I don't care what your opinion or perspective, I'm willing to listen to anybody, right? Well, well, yeah. I mean, like I say, I guess I really shouldn't say anybody, but if you're confident in your knowledge and your stance and your position, to me, it makes no sense to try to prevent other people from speaking. It's just weird. Anyways, okay. This will definitely be used by bad actors to consolidate support for their views about the lack of COVID-19 vaccination effectiveness, said Ahmed Al-Rawi, an assistant professor at Simon Fraser University School of Communication who specializes in disinformation. Oh, he's a specialist in disinformation. Well, can you trust what this guy says then? Right? I would immediately take it down and make some public statements about the inaccurate findings of the study because this has been shared widely on social media and will only confuse people more. So like I say, did these authors just want to confuse people? Is that why they released the study? I don't know. Give the media something to talk about? I don't know. Right? Bait and switch. I don't like. It's so weird. But yeah, I would immediately take it down. Well, it seems like they did what you ask. Yeah, hide it, right? Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Hide that information, right? The study also notably did not look at the protection vaccine offers from severe COVID-19, which has been shown to be much higher than against Omicron infection alone. Something Kwong says he and his colleagues will be adding in the future version. Once again, why didn't you do all that at the time? While COVID-19 vaccines don't provide total protection from infection, they do work well at preventing serious diseases. No, new data from the Public Health Agency in Canada found Canadians with 2 doses were 19 times less likely to be hospitalized than those unvaccinated. Yeah, forget about ages. Like I say, forget about breaking that down to ages, comorbidity, right? How healthy you are, right? Underlying conditions. Yeah, forget about adding all that stuff. It's just vaccinated or unvaccinated. Like I say, so much fail. Several studies have shown modest protection from 2 doses against Omicron infection, but better protection against severe outcomes such as hospitalization, said Mark Lipsitch, an epidemiologist at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston. Yeah, for the people who need it. Like I say, those 80 and 90-year-olds that are really, really vulnerable, they will benefit. Most of them will probably benefit tremendously from this stuff. People like myself, nah. This benefit is over and above any possible benefit of preventing infection or transmission. This benefit is over and above any possible benefit of preventing infection or transmission. Well, if there's no way of, listen, I would think preventing transmission or preventing infection would probably be more important. I mean, the severity is bad, but if you don't get it, it makes the severity nothing, right? I don't like the benefit is over and above anyways, whatever. I would think one vaccine that eliminates the potential for getting COVID or spreading it would be better than have to get multiple vaccines and hope that one of them will at least prevent you from dying. And that somehow somehow is better than, anyways, like I say, these people are confusing. Well, this CBC contributor, like I say, like what a joke, right? Lipsitch said Skowronski's criticism of the study are valid. His caution against comparing positive cases against those with symptoms. Wait, sorry. His caution against comparing positive cases among those with symptoms with those not tested for different reasons, adding, he very much agrees this approach can be a source of substantial bias. Right? When investigators try to share early results in the interest of public health, as these folks did, there's often a lot of uncertainty in those estimates, said Dr. David Fishman, an epidemiologist at the University of Toronto's Dalai Lama School of Public Health. Oh, you mean all those modeling that earlier on that were used to scare the living daylights out of Canadians, and for them to accept these lockdowns, these mandates, or not the mandates at the times, but all these restrictions on our social or economic lives, right? That have all had to be revised and or proven that those models didn't mean anything. But once again, we don't hear any of these guys out saying, yeah, all that modeling in the past, yeah, it was garbage. They shouldn't have even released it. None of that, right? You're not seeing any of that. But this study, which, I mean, just look at what's contained within the study. Why they're really, really concerned about the information in this study and hope really desperately that it won't get out. But it's very hard to reel in once people start using early versions of your work in support of misinformation. Oh, really? Darn, it worked out so good for you back earlier on, though, but now it's turning to be a detriment to the narrative. Right? So this is the thing with these people. This is why, like I say, this is why don't ever be a liar. I mean, if your wife asks you if she looks good in that blue dress. I mean, it's totally different, right? Save a bad night or hurt feelings. But you know what I'm saying? Just don't ever get yourself into the habit like some of these people where you're just lying constantly, lack principles, lack consistency, right? Because this is what you end up with. And I mean, I'm embarrassed and ashamed for these people. What a terrible, terrible thing. I'm glad I don't have to live in their heads. Skowronski said the rapid sharing of COVID-19 vaccine studies on social media has completely changed the research landscape, adding more pressure to get early results right. You need to ask yourself, why do we need to post this now? Why can it not wait the 1 or 2 weeks? How will this impact public and policy decision making? Skowronski said. And if you can't answer that, then we really should be asking ourselves, why are we rushing to preprint? Good question. Good question. Skowronski released a study in 2010 showing paradoxical negative vaccine effectiveness during the 2009 H1N1 pandemic that found those who had a flu shot were more likely to get infected with the influenza strain than people who hadn't, which was later proven right. Well, that's okay. Let me read that again here. Released a study in 2010. So this guy released a study in 2010 showing paradoxical negative vaccine effectiveness during the 2009 H1N1 pandemic that found those who had a flu shot were more likely to get infected with the influenza strain than people who hadn't, which was later proven right. So yeah, definitely going to want to get that article out there. Huh? I'll definitely be checking that one. Ooh, we're getting more pieces of gold here, even though they're not offering it necessarily for that. Although sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I do wonder. But she first assumed the finding. Oh, sorry, it's a she. Sorry, my bad. But she first assumed the findings were methodologically inaccurate. Reached out to outside experts around the world, conducted multiple different studies, and worked with an international panel of experts. I learned the lesson the hard way back in 2009 in dealing with paradoxical findings and the level of rigor required, she said. You don't approach this in a casual way. It does require lots of thinking, lots of worry before you can arrive at this. Dr. Ivan Oransky, co-founder of Retraction Watch, is a website that tracks errors in science journals, said because the study turned out to be flawed, quote, the researchers should move fast to update their findings. They're doing the right thing. The question is, how quickly will they do it? He said. I mean, they're talking about next week, but that's a bit of an eternity in this day and age. Anyway, so there you have it, folks. How far? So we're an hour and a half into the stream. I'm probably going to tie this up rather quickly. I think before I do tie it up, I'm probably just going to check a few of the comments. That's what I've been doing there lately. Hey, Fraser McBurney, what's going on, my friend? How are you doing? Good to see you in the live stream. Fraser McBurney. Oh, donated? How come it's not showing up as the normally when you donate, it highlights it in yellow. And I'm not seeing a highlight. That is odd. But anyways, I really appreciate it, Fraser McBurney. End the emergency now is the new sign I'll be carrying at our rally tomorrow at Hamilton City Hall, 12 noon. Right on. So listen, all you folks, any of you are right, anywhere near Hamilton, definitely go out and show a little solidarity and support and help Fraser McBurney and the rest of the fine folks who are out there fighting the good fight. Because it's good to see these kind of rallies and protests taking place. But to me, the best thing we can do is like I say, get more and more people on board with supporting them. Because if there's one thing I can't stand is to see, rallies or protests so small that the police or the enforcers get to bully them and intimidate them and treat them so poorly. At least if it's done in large enough numbers, you got a better chance. First of all, the optics are great, and a lot less chance that the enforcer class will treat you like garbage, right? So good for you, Fraser McBurney. Like I say, I really appreciate your support and good for you for doing all that you do. Like I say, every little bit that we can do to help, it all matters. It all means something, folks. Hey, Luke Thompson, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, my friend? Whenever I look into the eyes of these pandemic metric buffoons, I see dishonesty in the extreme. Oh, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? That's the thing. They can't hide their deception. And they definitely, most of these people, unless they're sociopaths, wouldn't be willing to look us straight in their eye and keep pounding away at this narrative. It would be just too difficult. Thank you very much, Pop Master. Appreciate that. And like I say, before I tie it up, I'm just going to take a couple minutes here real quick. Let me put it down in here and we'll just go another 5 minutes. And then, like I say, I'll tie it up. But I always like to see and gauge what Canadians are saying. Cause like I say, it seems that Canadians, the attitudes have shifted, and particularly those who are typical CBC acolytes or supporters, right? Because these are the people who would typically, right? Think about those who are typically comprised, those who are supporters of CBC. Now, I know people like myself, people like yourself who do read CBC and stuff. We're the outliers, the exception, and all that stuff. But I would suggest the majority, at least, right, of the people who consume CBC, do it because they believe that this information, right, that they're presented by the CBC is truthful and accurate and all that stuff. But like I say, the shift, and you would typically see that about a year ago, you would see that in the comment section. Now I'm seeing a slight, or actually not a slight, but a pretty big shift. And here I am saying that now, but I might be proven wrong here in this article. Well, let's try and see how it is. Now, it does seem to be like they're getting lots of traction in this article, 5,285 comments. That's a lot. And as you can see, I selected most liked. So see what's most popular in terms of comments on here. First comment by Bill Von Smith. When a media outlet uses the fringe term anti-vaxxer, they become part of the problem. Nice. Very nice. Here's the next one. Double vax plus booster, still wearing a mask, still distancing, still subject to lockdowns and restrictions, can still get it and spread it. At what point do you realize you're being played? So Chris Pratt, who's double vaxxed and boosted, still wearing a mask, still distancing, even he is saying, what's the point here, folks? None of this is making any sense at all anymore, right? Like I say, the narrative it's fallen fast. Murray Brown. There are probably a lot of studies out there that will need to be revised to fit the narrative. And listen to that, folks. And listen to the name. Listen to even how they're saying it, right? Sometimes I wonder, are these people watching my videos? Maybe secretly, I see a lot of people coming on my Canadian Libertarian Facebook page too. That's another thing on my Facebook page. Are these people, kind of lurking around our Facebook pages just to see, hey, what other people saying? Because the establishment narrative, as they're recognized, is falling apart, right? But even using the term the narrative, right? It's catching on all these things. Like I say, it doesn't mean it's necessarily me because I'm not the only one using that word, obviously. But like it does tell you that people, or at least these people, seem like they're starting to question the narrative and maybe getting their information from alternative sources which might very well be leading to or contributing to the question of the narrative, and rightfully so. Although you don't even need that. That's the thing. Even if I didn't know that there was anyone else challenging the narrative, just by listening to the narrative and having, like I say, a critical thinking mind, I would realize that yeah, this none of this stuff is making sense. I knew that earlier on, but of course, I've already had, like I said, I've already got lots of tools at my disposal, and I'm already in the position to be thinking more critically about these things because, like, I'm already on heightened alert, I guess, whereas most Canadians maybe not so much, right? But they're coming around, folks. They're coming around. In the real world, this is making headlines. Trudeau plays dangerous games with U.S. trucker vaccine rules. Canada plans to start turning away unvaccinated U.S. truckers at the border this week, a move that threatened to upend. Here's CBC radio silence on this one. So, anyways, this is someone not a fan of CBC's rhetoric in terms of the trucker mandate. And yeah, I'm definitely upset about the fact that they went and switched that back again, even after I just nicely uploaded the video saying that they had reversed and said now they're backing away from the mandate. Well, then shortly thereafter, they reversed course again, and now they're saying no, they're going to go ahead with the mandate. So it's all just so crazy, folks. If the science doesn't support the narrative, just revise the science. Gets funnier with every passing day. John Hammerman. Like I say, folks, I strongly object to CBC using the derogatory term of anti-vaxxers in this article. Everyone I know with COVID has been double or triple vaccinated. Everyday politicians and celebrities are in the news or on social media sharing their positive COVID status, and they're, for the most part, triple jab. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Orwell, nice. Bastian Dunleaver, great comment. Great comment. Like I say, the pushback is real, folks, especially when you're starting to see it on places like the CBC. Can someone explain this title to me? The PF CEO said they will work on an Omicron version, but it will take 4 more months. So what is this booster doing? I'm so confused about this vaccine. I mean, if I had 2 smallpox shots in 10 months and then I still get smallpox or need another shot 4 in a year, I'd have some questions. Anybody else? Craig Sweeney. Pure social engineering. The term anti-vax is purposely being used by the media now. Absolutely disgusting. It's a loaded term being used to divide people, to hide the real cause of our failing healthcare system, which is years of underlying underfunding and mismanagement. Like I say, this gives me a little hope for my country, for Canada, right? Canadians, you just got to believe. That's why you got, even myself, you can't use derogatory terms and calling people stupid anymore, right? Especially the ones that early on were supporting this stuff because they were just massively tricked and deceived, right? So, but they're coming around, folks. They're coming around, folks. Now is the time. Like I say, the most important thing we can do, in addition to leading by example, is to don't, at this point in time, do not try to give yourself that proverbial, winner's lap around the track by, saying I told you so, or berating or deriding or insulting those who were supporting the narrative earlier on. Do not do that. The best thing you can do right now is say, listen, I know it's terrible. They deceived you. I know they deceived me. They deceived, be nice to these people. Be nice to these people. Like I say, that we have to, if we're going to have any chance, folks, is the days of division, they have to be over. Well, the only division that should exist today are those who are absolutely outright, staunchly advocating for defending the narrative or this use of force, coercion, and control over people, right? Anyone else outside of that, I say, even people who are your political opponents, try your best to reach out to them and create the genuine inclusivity. Let's genuinely unite Canadians under nothing more than just genuine principles, right? That's the beautiful thing. If you unite people based on principles, everyone can have everyone can be who they are. They don't have to sacrifice any portion of themselves, right? All they have to do is adhere to, just like we all do, mathematics, 2 + 2 is 4, a principle. Stop using force and coercion and violence as your means to an end or threats thereof, right? Those of us, the overwhelming majority of us, I believe, are on board with that and support that. I can't find a vaccine that requires 3 to 4 boosters a year indefinitely and ongoing. So in year 4, you will have 15 shots in your arms. Seems reasonable. Not. If CBC published a printed magazine, it would be situated at the supermarket checkout right by the candy. I see what you did there, Andrew Williams. Tabloid, big time, right? At the end of this, who will write the history of the pandemic? If it's the CBC, we will know that truth was lost. CBC should grow up enough to stop calling people anti-vaxxers. It's like the schoolyard bully taunting, pointing fingers, and accusing others when he is the worst kid on the block. Yep. Anyways, folks, so like I say, that's enough of that. Great comments, though, right? And thanks for all you fine folks who did join the stream. Really appreciate it. It was a good day today. Great stream. It seemed like everything went by. Oh, I see Dave was on there. Sorry, I didn't see you there earlier, Dave. Ezra never runs anything that is anti-Israel unless something has changed. Not sure. That's probably you're probably talking with someone else up there. Because yeah, that's not that wasn't anything I was talking about today. Or anyway, I told my family at the beginning of last year that 2021 would be deadlier than 2020. I told my family that winter would bring a variant that goes right through their booster. When winter comes around and their vax is useless, they turn on me and assume okay, let me see here. Brian Strader. I don't see the rest. Thank you very much, Rectitude Media. Appreciate that. And thanks for all you folks. Please do share this actually with others too, if you wouldn't mind. Uh, Brian, sure. I'm not seeing the rest of your comment there. But anyways, like I said, I'm going to tie this live stream up there, folks. So yeah, you folks have yourself a great day. Like I say, all the stuff that I've covered will be linked in the description of the live stream. And I've definitely got lots of new videos. I'm going to be doing, and I've been getting lots of feedback. People are loving the short videos, and I'm definitely going to keep churning them out, more and more of them, to cover so many aspects and these stories that are so important and pertinent to our lives. I'm definitely going to keep doing them. Definitely going to keep doing the live stream. And like I say, at some point in time here soon, probably sooner rather than later, I definitely want to get into doing some interviews and bringing other people on to the live streams with me, because I know you folks enjoy not just hearing from myself, but others as well. And like I say, you folks who do watch the stream, if you ever want to, just reach out to me at Canadian Libertarian BH, as in Bennett Hunter, BH, the initials, Canadian Libertarian BH at gmail.com. And like I say, I'll bring you on to be a guest anytime. And especially if you're a contributor or regular frequent person who watches my streams, by all means, I'll bring you on anytime and you can have your say. So anyways, like I say, have yourself a great rest of your Saturday and the great to the rest of the weekend. Ending this live stream, and I'm going to go figure out what else is going on and maybe get a couple other videos ready for upload for the next few days. Anyways, you folks have yourself a great weekend. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.